Hello, 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 hello. We're back from surgery.
And your vacation.
We're back from vacation. And we're back for your ear holes.
Yeah.
This is the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
As always, brought to you by the Press Play Podcast Network. We got a lot to cover. A lot's happened. You know, not everybody has the cojones to take off the 2 weeks of the National with their sports card podcast.
It wasn't so much cojones as it was you had a trip already planned. You were in Puerto Rico, got to go see Grandpa.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Had a fun time with the fam. And
A paella.
I had
Paella, Cornish hen.
I was so angry.
Did you
kept
see the
sending me
Cornish hen?
pictures. Yes, you kept sending me pictures of everything. Did you eat some mofongo for me?
I had a chance, but I knew that it would be satisfying to say no to you, so I
you're
didn't.
such a jerk.
I'm serious. That's the
How
reason
about
why.
chicharrone?
Oh yeah,
Okay, yeah. Fresh ones?
yeah, and then more tostones than you can count.
Oh, I'm sure. Delicious.
Yeah.
And all I had was shoulder surgery. So, had that going for me.
Yeah, good job, man.
On an unrelated note,
How you feeling?
I'm okay. That's what I was going to say. So, if you're listening and you haven't had shoulder surgery, it sucks. But after my surgery, I had to sleep.
Man, that was good.
What?
Thank you for that.
Yeah. So, I had to sleep in my recliner for like 2 weeks, right? Because I couldn't risk rolling over on that shoulder in my sleep. And that's the side I tend to sleep on. So, I've slept in a recliner on my back for 2 weeks, which is awful. But I got used to it. Last night, first night, back in bed. Let me explain something to you. As a side sleeper, I sleep on my side. Having slept on my back for 2 weeks, the first time I got into my bed and rolled over onto the side, I was able to roll over, even though it's not the side that I normally sleep on. It was almost a carnal experience.
You know, I want to talk about something.
Yeah.
Not only did you have shoulder surgery,
Oh, yeah, I had a root canal, too.
I was going to call it a nagging sports injury, but
Yeah.
I'll let you go.
Yeah, no, it's just been it's been one of those things. That root canal was actually today, so that was fun. I never had one of those before. Hope I never have another one.
This podcast never takes a break.
No, I mean not for things like that. We do for vacations, but not for like stuff happens.
I was just joking because we're fairly
We take
inconsistent.
breaks all the time, yeah.
all the time we do
fair.
that.
That was a big heavy sigh.
Sports cards?
Sports cards. Let's
All right,
rock
well,
and roll.
We got a lot to talk about.
We do.
The big thing everybody's talking about is the National. We had a great time in Atlantic City.
Said no one ever.
That actually is very true.
Yeah, Atlantic City.
Like all the podcasts I listened to, any blogs, all this stuff was saying, yeah, guys, Atlantic City sucks.
Have you been
for
to
this.
Atlantic City?
Well, think about our hobby. Think about the hobby that we're in.
Yes.
It is not a cheap hobby.
No.
It's not a... How do I want to say this? If you walk through the convention center at the National,
Okay.
it doesn't smell the same as the gathering of juggalos.
No, that's 100% true.
I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but Atlantic City, those ICP fans that listen in, you should check it out.
Have you been to Atlantic City?
No, you and I would actually have a blast.
So I've been to. We would, but I've been to Atlantic City. I went to probably 8 or 9 years ago. ISA convention was there when I still owned my sign company, right? So it's the sign makers convention.
Exhilarating.
It was cool. I had a good time, but man, Atlantic City, the streets are narrow. There's not much space. Parking is awful, and there were probably 50 or 60,000 collectors at the National. Like,
There's not enough room.
no, not at all. Yeah. So,
Like, I was listening to Mojo Breaks podcast,
right?
and I can't remember which one, but one of the head honchos there, he didn't say bed bugs, but he says he said his legs will never be the same.
Yeah.
After staying, that was like at the Borgata. They thought it would be fine.
No. If you're going to Atlantic City for anything,
You need a DeLorean, and you need to go to the Roaring 20s.
No, what you need to do is stay about 15 miles outside of town. Do not try to stay down in Atlantic City.
Well, here's what I think. The hobby's grown so much. The turnout from 5 years ago to now is ridiculous. So
just a different world.
set the stakes a little higher, charge a little more on the entry, and make sure that you have the amenities that people want.
Next year sounds like Chicago, then Cleveland, and then back to Chicago. That's what it looks like.
My
right now.
kind of town.
And there's new management for the show,
Chicago. If you ever interrupt me covering Frankie,
Oh, I'll do that every time you do it.
oh, Blue Eyes.
Okay, but I'll still interrupt you every time you do
The
it.
summer wind. Are we doing the Garth Brooks thing now?
Please,
with
God,
Frank?
don't. I don't want to play this game ever
When
again.
I was 17.
It was a terrible game the first time we played it.
It was a very good year.
Please, thank
All right.
you.
Anyway, so the National happened. My favorite cringy thing that happened at the National
Yep.
was BGS.
Listen, I have never seen a company more transparently backtrack and try to cover themselves. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. So I started getting text messages and Facebook messages from contacts that I have in the industry at the National. They were there.
We got contacts, bro.
And I start getting texts of this new BGS slab. And my first thing that I said the first time somebody sent it to me, I said, are they testing these? And they went, no, it's everywhere. All their employees are wearing T-shirts with this new slab and logo on it. All of their backdrops, everything is this slab. They're launching it.
100%.
And then 3 hours later, after the entire industry collectively lost their minds about how terrible this new slab was, it literally got rid of everything that made BGS's slabs unique. It got rid of the interior sealed bag. It changed the label to, it looks like a GMA label with less design. It was awful. Everybody lost their minds, and then within 3 hours, BGS was like trying to wheel it back. No, we were just test mark. It was on their website. They spent millions of dollars.
You know what this means?
What's this mean?
Somebody's in charge that does not care what people who know what they're doing want.
If you haven't noticed, whoever's in charge at BGS hasn't cared for 2 years.
Ironically enough, that's the only slab that probably doesn't ever need to change.
Probably not.
It's established enough,
Yeah.
right?
It was so hilarious to watch, and they were like, "No, we're just testing it." You spent but this is how I know that wasn't the case. They had to stop on-site grading after like the first 6 or 8 hours of the first day. And they said it was because they were having machine difficulties. No, it wasn't. It was because all they brought were those new slabs.
Quick question.
Yeah.
How much does it cost to fly a machine
A sonic
from a
welder?
warehouse up?
Not much. Sonic welders are tabletop.
Okay, so $5,000. Get it there the same day?
No, Lord, no. $300? Just have it shipped.
Oh. And 50
It
to
only weighs
60
50 pounds.
You know, and it's so hard to get a BGS grade. Were they doing on-site grading?
Well, they were there to do on-site grading.
Interesting. So they decided we'd rather not make enough money to buy 10 of these welders this weekend.
Well, because they didn't want to put those new slabs out, and that's
I
all they
know.
have with them. They made a $3 or $4 million mistake because they had all. I guarantee
Yeah,
you.
let's talk about that. What
They
does
had
it cost to develop a brand? You were in this space.
Yeah, well, they had already bought. They had already had the new dies made and the new molds made for the slabs, and they had probably bought, I don't know, several 100,000 of them. They had hired a designer to do the new labels. They had bought the machinery to do the new labels. And by the time you get all that said and done, along with all the marketing materials and everything, I bet you they're anywhere from $2 to $4 million into that mistake.
Yeah.
And it's just gone.
Well, but maybe they'll sell. Maybe they. Now, here's an idea. Rumor has it that there was no cell signal in Atlantic City, and on top of that, you had to pay $80 for Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So there had to be a bunch of old heads in there that are like, finally, back to the old days.
Nobody can check comps.
And they took their rolled up Beckett out of their pocket on their shirt because they're wearing a shirt with a pocket. Took it out, unrolled it, and started looking up from their 1997 Beckett issue.
Well, did you see the story? And these things only happen in the sports card industry, and it's the funniest thing ever. If you wanted to, how do I phrase it? So everybody knows if you're active in Facebook groups, people scam. There was a.
Hey,
there
hold on
was
a second.
Yeah, you cracking. Nice.
Today's episode is brought to you by Boosh Light.
Boosh.
It's Thursday, which is my Friday. So kick back, put your feet up, listen to your favorite podcast, The Ball Card Show. Always refreshing,
Now we're back.
Bush Light.
Okay. So,
Did you hear the
pour?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
call us, Anheuser?
we get this story comes out of this booth that was at the National. Now, keep in mind, any dealer that has adequate inventory and goes to the National is going to probably sell between $180,000 and $400,000 worth of product at the National. If you have adequate inventory. If you're like, I don't have adequate inventory to go to the National, and I have a lot of stuff, but I do not have adequate inventory to set up at the National. So this guy did a deal. He had a table at the National, and he did a deal with somebody he had done plenty of business with in the past. And it was like $30,000 cash, the deal, for a bunch of raw mantles and a Clemente rookie slab, like a PSA 6 or 7 slab. And this came to my mind because you said book. Because when they were complaining about it and telling people to keep an eye open for stuff, they were like, book value was $84,000. But this guy claims that the guy said, hey, I got to go grab my partner. He's got cash. He's got all the cash in our bag. Because this is the other thing at National. As crazy as this sounds, there are 50,000 people in there, and 20,000 of them are walking around with $100,000 in cash in a backpack on their backs. Like, legit. So the guy leaves, and the dealer lets him take the cards with him. They've done business in the past. And the guy just never shows back up. That's what the dealer story is. And everybody's like, oh, he could go to jail for this and that. And my response was, are you dumb? How's he? All he has, it was a cash deal. All he has to say is, I gave him the cash. What are they talking about? Why would they let me walk away with all this stuff if I hadn't given them the cash? They're trying to screw me.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are out.
What was the amount of that deal?
$30,000. Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, stuff like that happens. It's really important. And this is no matter whether if you're listening to this and you set up at shows or you go to shows, it doesn't matter whether you're setting up at the National or whether you're setting up at Podunk USA show. Keep an eye on your inventory. And for the love of God, unless it is your spouse or a family member or somebody that you would trust with giving them the PIN number to your ATM card, don't let people walk away with product that they haven't paid for.
And here's the funny thing. Like this last year, there was that show. I don't remember if it was in Texas. I don't remember where it was. But this guy was stealing cards. And somebody pointed him out. And all of the collectors basically surrounded him and made sure the police got to him right away. Like, people in the hobby are very invested. And this ruins our experience to be nerds that we want to be. Yeah. And so, like, all that guy would have to say is, hey, he's taking off. But if he actually did pull that over on him.
Well, he let them. It wasn't he's taking off. He was like, hey, I'm going to go get the cash for this. Give me about 20 minutes. I'll be back. And he handed him his stuff. And he left, and that was all they heard from him. And then it was like, he's not answering phones.
Why would he leave his stuff, though?
What do you mean, why would he leave his stuff?
You said he left his stuff.
No, he let him take his stuff.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So he let him walk away with book value, 84, but nobody cares about book value, but $30,000.
So the National,
Yeah, it's an experience. I've been to it before many, many years ago when the hobby was not what it is now.
I feel like you really have to financially prepare for that.
Well, you do. There's two ways to approach the National at this point. If you want to sell stuff, make sure you take stuff that people want to buy. If you're there to buy stuff, make sure that you take adequate cash, and cash is king. Like, cash is king. And if you haven't been in the hobby for very long and you aren't used to seeing large stacks of $100 bills get passed around, your eyes will be so big, your whole face will look like your eyeballs. It is nothing.
Your whole face!
It is nothing to watch $250,000 in cash in one deal get handed across the table to somebody. It's nothing.
All right, I'm going to change the subject.
Okay.
I'm going to keep you mad, though, because I like this energy. We're going to keep talking about grading. We're going to talk about PSA. So you and I were having a conversation about what are we talking about this week? And it got real interesting. As you know, Gary loves PSA. It is the gold standard.
I hate them so much. I hate everything about them. He
prefers to cross everything over to PSA regardless of the grade. There is no minimum grade when he sends a card off. There is no price too high or delay too long. for him to stay with PSA. But
I did hold true to what I said, by the way.
cool. I'm not done talking.
Okay, go ahead.
So we're going to talk about PSA math. I'm going to do this. We're just doing this little segment, PSA math, just a little food for thought. That's all that this is. So hypothetically, we gathered some information from some people who know some things about how PSA operates, and we're just going to do some math. Can you get out your calculator
Yes, I
here?
can. So first, let's ask this basic question. Realistically, and you've watched me pre-grade cards.
What was the
right?
statement made by PSA in the last month? They graded how many cards?
1.1 million cards.
1.1 million cards graded at PSA.
Graded and encapsulated. Okay? So, let me ask this question first. And you've seen me grade cards. You've seen me use a scope and grade cards. You've seen me do it without a scope. What amount of time do you think is adequate for somebody who knows what they're doing to accurately grade a card?
To pre-grade or grade?
To grade.
I work for a company that grades. 2 to 3 minutes
Okay.
would be like, if you're efficient, you know what you're looking for, you're real familiar with the instruments you're using. I think
And that includes encapsulation or just
no,
the grading?
just the grading.
Okay.
That would be me.
Okay.
2 minutes. I think you could, if you're doing this all day long. I think.
And if it's a monster card, they're gonna spend a lot more time. on it.
Sure,
Somebody
sure.
sends in a 52 mantle or something like that. Okay. So let's do some basic math. How many seconds are in a minute?
60 of them.
And how many minutes are in an hour?
60.
And how many hours are in a day?
24. How am I doing?
And how many days are in a year?
365.
So that gives us a total of 31,536,000 seconds in a year.
Mm-hmm.
How many months are in a year?
12 of them.
That gives us 2,628,000 seconds in a month.
Okay.
That's 24 hours in a day. That's how many seconds are in a month.
Yeah.
So PSA graded 1.1 million cards last month, which means that if they only had one grader, including encapsulation, they spent just a hair over 2.3 seconds per card with one grader. Okay? Now, that being said,
They have more than one
they have
grade.
more than one grader, so I have it on very good authority that they have about 650 graders, which is a staggering number because up until a year and a half ago, they had about 50 to 80 at any given time. So, if that's our numbers, it's 650 graders. Hold on, let me get this number back again. to where we
Uh-oh.
were. I'm just getting my
Uh-oh.
number back. Okay. So 268, 2,628,000 seconds
This is falling to pieces.
in a month. No, I'm good. I'm just getting my
2
my numbers
million.
in.
How many?
2,628,000 seconds in a month.
Okay.
Now, if we divide that by 650, that's the number of graders there are. That means each grader is spending 4,043 seconds a month, right? They're not working 24 hours a day. Long story short, the math breaks down to if they're working 18 hours a day between grading and encapsulation, they're spending a total of roughly 40 seconds per card grading and encapsulation to do 1.1 million cards in a month.
How many?
Roughly 40 seconds.
They're fast, man.
There's no way you can accurately grade cards.
Well, maybe that's faster than I realize. I'm sure they have it.
Well, if you think of encapsulation, you got to have somebody that sets the base of the slab, sets the card, sets the flip, sets the top, brings the clamshell down, it sonically welds it. That process takes about 10 seconds, 8 to 10 seconds per card, right? So that's just the welding part if you give it another 10 seconds. So realistically, they're spending 20 to 30 seconds per card. I don't know how you can accurately grade cards in 20 to 30 seconds. I just don't know how it's possible.
Yeah.
There's no way that every card's getting scoped. There's no way that every card is getting measured. There's just no way. So if you are sending stuff to PSA, understand that it is a complete crapshoot. It is a complete crapshoot, and that's why I don't like their business practices. I don't like how they do things. I held true to my principles. I sent my big time Ellie De La Cruz to SGC.
Which, by the way, is for sale.
It is for sale.
You're talking a lot. But I do appreciate what you're saying. How long should it take? If you're paying the premium, if you're waiting that long, if it is the standard for the hobby.
You can't accurately grade stuff. It's just impossible. And let's
Now,
be fair.
We could find out somebody lied to you and there's 1,200 employees.
Well,
and then they spend a minute and a half.
Yeah, which still isn't
with
quite
no
enough.
bathroom breaks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the math it's very simple math, and nobody wants to hear it. The people who are deeply invested in PSA cards don't want to hear it. The PSA fanboys on Facebook definitely don't want to hear it. And with those idiots, you better not even try to bring fact into it because it's going to go sideways real fast.
Yeah.
And then you've got companies like SGC that are grading about 60,000 cards a month. What's been really nice to see is over the last 3 months, who have I been talking up for a year now that's going to dominate this space soon?
CSG?
They are now second in volume.
All right, bro, you're talking a lot because we took so much time off.
Well, you told me to. Okay.
I do. No, that was good. That was good. I really appreciate it. But we have another thing to be mad about.
What's that?
Well, I think maybe be mad about.
Fire away. I forgot what's on the paper. So
well,
you're hitting me fresh.
Fanatics ending the relationship with GTS.
I think it's amazing.
So let's talk through what that means. I think a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, distributors. I don't know if everybody understands how distributors even work. So, and in a lot of the things that I've listened to and read, people are not explaining it. So break it down for people. Here's how it works. Here's how the distributor gets involved. All that.
So 2 ways that a card shop, an LCS, can purchase product. One is direct from the manufacturer. However, both Topps and Panini have extremely stringent rules on who can be direct, and Panini stopped accepting new direct accounts several years ago, although I know for a fact that they have added a few here and there, people that are willing to spend $10, $15 million a year. But you can get direct from the manufacturer, or this is what 90% of people do, they get it from a distributor. So the distributor buys stuff in bulk from manufacturers. So say a distributor is a big distributor, the biggest distributor in the market, who we'll actually talk about here in a minute, is GTS. They might buy, let's use Topps Baseball, they might buy 10,000 cases of Series 1, right? And then distribute that out. So up until about 4 years ago, the distributors bought stuff at true wholesale, marked it up 10, 15%, and then sold it all.
Like a fixed profit.
Yeah, to hobby shops, to LCSs. You know, you could, and any Joe Blow with a business license could go in and buy that stuff.
Some would call it their fair share.
Yeah. I mean, you're in bulk. You're moving huge amounts of product.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, all I had to do in 2017 to go buy cases of Bowman was have a business license, call GTS, call Peach State, call whoever, say, hey, here's my business license number. I want to set up an account. Cool. What do you want? I need 4 cases of Bowman at $650 a case, 12 boxes. Like, that was what it was. God, I miss those days. And then when Zion Mania really kicked off, and maybe a little bit before because people were starting to look at that Luka Trey class, GTS was the biggest offender, although Peach State did it too. They would only allocate at wholesale cost about 30 to 35% of what they were buying from the manufacturer. And then then they made LCSs buy stuff at market price, which was usually about 10% over what you could buy it on eBay for, and 15 to 20% over what you could buy it on DealerNet for from other dealers. And so these distributors started cranking the prices through the roof, which between them and Panini, that didn't happen with Topps product as much, but between distributors and Panini, it's what drove these hobby box prices into crazyville. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, they have really killed themselves. So Fanatics, what you were talking about, announced about a week and a half ago, because you were on vacation. Yeah, well, Topps, but it's Fanatics. They own Topps. Topps told GTS, we'll fill the rest. We're going to fill the rest of your orders for this year's product, and then you don't get more product from us ever again.
And who's affected the most?
Well, it's going to be card shops to start, unless Topps also starts taking direct accounts from card shops again. Which
so there's a
could
possibility
happen.
it could correct some of what went wrong.
Yeah, I think that it'll correct some. It's going to be a lot like anything else, though, and this is what's frustrating about it. Just like we've seen a lot of other prices go up, prices will come down some. They will not get back to where they were because the market has already told these distributors and manufacturers, we're willing to pay stupid money. So it's going to come down some, but it's not going to get back to where it was. Right now, there's such an imbalance between singles prices and hobby box prices that if you're buying hobby boxes, you have more money than cents.
Yeah.
Like, it's really that simple.
Tied into that dude, I feel like we're just being Debbie Downers here, but
Well, I mean, this is what's going on. Like,
tied into that.
there is
so
good
I'm
news with
optimistic that has the potential to reshape some things.
yeah,
you and I were talking
available
about
direct
Yeah, exactly.
to consumer.
You and I were talking about the possibility and the rumors of some type of structure between Fanatics and Panini.
Those rumors have been rumbling that Fanatics is going to buy Panini.
And they've really gotten a lot louder in the last couple weeks.
Yep.
But the National already, a bunch of people just sitting around gossiping in Atlantic City.
My whole thing is this, and this
You're just going to walk right over that? That voice I just used?
I thought that was just your regular voice. You were just being a little
No,
saucy.
that was, I don't, I don't know how to feel about that. Do you know I do that when I'm working?
Just make weird voices.
Hey, this is Jason. I just want to let you know I'm leaving the shop now.
Yeah.
Should be there in about. I try to sound like a pilot. I
Air
even
traffic
put my
control.
hands around my mouth. Just want to.
Yeah. So back to where we were at.
That's called a pattern interrupt.
It worked.
Panini speculation. So,
Yes.
is there an upside for Fanatics buying Panini now instead of just kind of letting them have their own little sandbox? Some people think it makes no sense. Some people say absolutely has to happen, that there are some plays early on. And you and I were kind of debating back and forth about this a little bit.
Yeah, my whole thing is this. What benefit does Fanatics, what's the benefit for Fanatics to buy Panini?
So I'll jump in.
Yes, I'm asking you.
So I think they're trying to shift the way that people purchase sports cards
Yep.
and that they engage with that. And so what they have to figure out, if I am Fanatics and I think that we should do this, it is that I want to have these couple of years before we have all the rights to everything, basically, on the three major sports, right?
Well, they're going to have it if they buy it.
Yep. But if they don't buy it, then there's still a little bit of a sandbox that Panini hangs on to, which it's not tiny, but stateside it would be.
Yes.
Okay. So if I'm Fanatics and I'm trying to create more of a direct to consumer approach, which with everything else they've done, that's kind of the way that they approach things.
Yep.
Is the upside high enough to offer an amount to a Panini that realizes their market is about to significantly shrink over the next couple of years?
So, but that didn't answer my question. Why? What is the main thing that Panini?
I can start making changes organizationally that I want to make now that we would have to wait 3 years on, and then I do an analysis over the cost and benefit, having the 2 or 3 years now before the image and likeness of all the other major sports goes away. It just gives you an opportunity to get started on your plan right away. And can that generate more money right now as opposed to waiting a couple more years? That's the upside, in my opinion.
So to me, I think the main reason that they would be buying Panini, reason one, is owning brands that are already established. Reason two is what you just said, getting revenue flowing sooner. because the sooner they can get revenue flowing.
And begin to implement some of
Yes.
the operational changes of how the product is received.
So that's fine. But what I think everybody forgets, because we are here in America, we are really, and I think everybody in the world is bad about it with wherever they are, but we're worse than everybody else. We're so America-centric that we forget that Panini makes just as much money off of stuff outside of the United States. They have soccer. They have WWE. They have UFC. They have other random things that they do. Fortnite cards. There's a lot of different things that Panini has their hands in. And if they lost the ability to manufacture major North American sports cards, they would still be generating large amounts of revenue on a yearly basis, like massive amounts of revenue on a yearly basis. So any company that is the size of Panini, that has the track record that Panini has, is going to have a sale price somewhere in the 7 to 10 times EBITDA, which is, gross earnings annual. So they're going to get 7 to 10 times their annual earnings. Panini isn't going to pay that for a company that is going to be obsolete within their footprint in 3 years. Even after they lose those licenses in a couple years, Panini does, they're still going to have large amount of value and still generate lots of revenue. Yes, they'll have to lay off employees, but that's what companies do in those situations. So knowing that, I don't think Panini has any impetus to sell at pennies on the dollar, and I don't think that Fanatics is going to be willing to pay full market price for something that they think is going to be, not valuable in 2 to 3 years. So with that being the case, I'm just not sure how much sense it makes. They bought Topps. I think the biggest reason they bought Topps, beyond being able to get started early and it just made sense, is the manufacturing capabilities, because Topps does all their manufacturing and packaging in-house.
That's a huge differentiator.
Panini outsources all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which you can tell from the quality control, because it's trash.
Also.
So that's the end result of what I think. Could it happen? I guess maybe, but I don't think it's going to happen at a discount, which is what Fanatics probably is looking for.
They're too expensive.
Yeah, and I just don't see that it's going to happen for that reason.
Yeah.
That was a lot of me talking. So.
You talk a lot today. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. You got a lot to say. I'm just here. Training camps. Let's have a few conversations.
Yeah, let's have some fun.
So first off, we're gonna talk about 3 teams, and then we're gonna do a little segment called Hobby Hype.
Okay.
All right. Up first, we want to talk about the Steelers and this Trubisky situation.
I think I might have said this a little while ago. I don't know how many episodes back, but don't sleep on Trubisky. I think I told you guys to buy some of his stuff. It's already starting to move a little bit. He's looking good in Steelers camp. The Steelers have legitimate weapons.
It's the right program for him.
Yeah, and they haven't even – his teammates are talking really highly of him. He's the guy this year. It's not going to be Mason Rudolph. Kenny Pickett's not even close to ready. Kenny Pickett has, from everything that I have heard, has looked real bad.
Real bad.
So, which again, not surprising. This was not a quarterback-heavy draft. So,
yeah.
He's going to probably be inactive a lot this year and watch and learn and have a solid redshirt year. But Trubisky is going to be pretty freaking good in Pittsburgh. Is he going to, light the world on fire? I don't think that you're going to see situations where you 10 or 12 extra money on Trubisky stuff. But he's looked pretty good.
If you've had Trubisky stuff all this time, this is your golden opportunity.
It's going to be an opportunity, because it would not shock me by week 8 or 9 if the Steelers are 5-3.
Yep.
And Trubisky has a 2-to-1, 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio and is running a little bit.
I mean,
We've
there's
seen him do
several hurting programs in that division right now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take a whole lot to at least get the attention. I wouldn't use the word hype, but good for him getting the opportunity to prove himself a little bit.
Yeah, and the thing that I always have never understood with everybody's hate for this kid, look at his numbers. Just go look at his career numbers.
Yeah.
Every time he was healthy and given the opportunity, he produced. Did he make mistakes? Sure, he was a rookie and an early second-year guy under Matt Nagy, who's awful.
Yeah, terrible.
So, anyhow.
All right, let's move on. I'm really excited to talk about this one, actually. The Panthers. We actually have a shootout at QB. So, whatever Baker Mayfield drew on his vision board for this year, I could assure you it did not include Deshaun Watson
Correct.
coming to town.
Correct.
Him not being even a consideration. And then him going to Carolina, which, oof. And then he's competing with Sam Darnold. And then there's an actual competition.
It doesn't seem like much of a competition at this point. So early on it was a competition, but Ben McAdoo, who is the OC, which he's the goofiest dude I've ever seen on an NFL sideline, and that includes young Bill Belichick. But Ben McAdoo was a huge critic of Sam Darnold when he was the head coach of the Giants. When Darnold was Baker Mayfield. When Mayfield was drafted number 1 overall, he was concerned about his hand size, his height, everything else. In the last 3 days, Ben McAdoo has had to contain his excitement when talking about Baker Mayfield. If Sam Darnold starts week 1 for the Panthers and Baker Mayfield is healthy, I will eat one of my shoes. Baker Mayfield's going to win that job if he hasn't already. And the Panthers are not going to make the playoffs, but Baker's going to be pretty good. The one thing I know about
what? Okay, so sorry, I'm interrupting
you're good.
you. I don't disagree with anything you're saying.
Okay.
But
Okay.
Is Baker Mayfield the kind of guy where if Sam Darnold started week 1, that he keeps the chip on his shoulder and keeps going?
Yes.
So here I have a theory.
Okay.
I think Baker Mayfield is catching shade from Johnny Football still.
How so?
Hold on. Wait for it. Ice cold, refreshing as always. Busch Light. Anheuser-Busch, you can reach out to us, the Ball Card Show, at pressplaypodcast.net. I don't think that's
so.
right.
Anyway, Baker Mayfield.
I just think, does he actually have that? Is he actually that competitive, or is he a spoiled brat? That's what people want to know.
I think he's competitive.
And he's a spoiled brat?
A little bit.
But he is much more resilient than Johnny Manziel.
Well, Johnny Manziel.
Because it's hard not to paint him in the same picture.
It
Cleveland.
is, but it's not. So, here's the thing about Johnny Manziel, and this is what people forget about Johnny Manziel. Baker Mayfield, chip on his shoulder, and a little bit of a spoiled brat. Johnny Manziel was born into a family with hundreds of millions of dollars. Johnny Manziel never gave an F. Ever. He just had enough physical talent in college to be able to play that way.
Yeah.
And when he got to the NFL, you can't do that anymore. There's just not, you can't do that in the NFL anymore. And he never learned how to study film. He never knew how to do anything other than make one read and go. And he didn't care to try.
No.
He couldn't have cared less.
And I'm not saying they looked similar on the field.
No,
what
but
I'm saying is just
their
in
approach
general,
is
he
very
catches
different.
a lot of shade.
He does, but I think it's unwarranted. I think it's unwarranted.
I kind of like
they had a similar style.
You might
of
see
play.
something special with him because of what he's been through this year too.
Oh no,
then.
I think that that Carolina team, and this is a big if McCaffrey stays healthy, which he hasn't for 2 years. Okay? If he stays healthy, if DJ Moore stays healthy, Robbie Anderson has a bounce back year. That offense isn't bad. It's not amazing, but I could see that team winning between 7 and 9 games, which would be a huge step forward. And he's got some actual weapons there, and he's healthy again. So it would be really surprising to me if I think he has a legit chance at being comeback player of the year.
That would be a cool story.
Yeah, I legit think he does.
I still don't like him, but I've enjoyed watching how he plays. It's just reckless. He is the Ryan Friel of quarterbacks. That's how I feel. Rest in peace.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean?
To an extent. I think he's less reckless than people think he is. I think his reputation causes people to see things that aren't there sometimes.
Yeah.
But anyhow, what's next?
All right. Up next, we do have some good news.
Okay.
For the first time. The Patriots offense looks terrible.
Yes.
Terrible.
It has not been good. Even the guys, the writers in New England that are seeing practices that their job relies on them being as positive about the Patriots as they can be, have been like, oh, no.
So, with the OC situation.
There isn't one.
Exactly.
Belichick has refused to name an OC.
Is this the football version of the Titanic? We're too big to fail.
I think it's the football version of, and this is hard for me to say because I believe wholeheartedly that Bill Belichick is the greatest coach in the history of organized sports. But I think that we may have reached a point where Bill Belichick's ego has outpaced reality.
Watch him win it again.
I mean,
watch him win it again.
That would be crazy. But you've got two guys who are the main guys within that offensive room who've never coached offense before at any level of football.
I think this sounds goofy because Belichick's an outlier.
Yeah,
that whole
for
program,
sure.
like everything going on up there in New England, it's just different. Their own rules, especially if you're the owner. Anyway, what I was trying to say before I made a really good point there was I think what happens with leaders a lot of times is whenever something doesn't work for the first time after working for a long time, you revert back to the last thing that worked.
When did they ever not have an OC?
Well, I'm not saying they didn't have an OC. I'm saying I think they're trying to revert to some mid to late 90s style offense.
Oh, I hope not, because that ain't going to work at all.
Well, I think that's what's going to happen.
That's sketch.
I think that's what's going to happen.
They don't have the weapons to do that stuff.
Yeah. And deep down inside, there's part of him is like, this is what Cleveland ball always was. I think that's what's happening.
I hope not.
They're hoping that the defense
for all the people that have stuck stupid money in.
They're hoping for the defense to figure it out.
Yeah, but the defense ain't that good.
And he's not playing Jim Tressel, whose favorite play is the punt. This is not. That's what I think is happening.
And I hope for the sake of all the people who have sunk stupid money into Mac Jones that it isn't what I think it's going to be, but I legit think you could have a situation there where Mac Jones throws less than 20 touchdown passes and throws 10 to 12 interceptions and is a slightly below league average quarterback. Not necessarily because of him, but there's just nothing there. They got nothing there. That's just the reality of it. I hope it isn't, but it's likely to be so. Buffalo's going to destroy that division. Josh Allen is going to take the next step.
Well,
it's going to be, I really think at the end of this year, the conversation is going to be
Buffalo, Miami.
I think the conversation is going to be who's better, Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen.
Ooh. I like Josh Allen.
Josh Allen's a monster.
Freak.
He's everything you want in a quarterback.
And I love the Buffalo fan base. I'm going to say it. I don't want to spend a weekend with them in Nashville again.
No, but they're legit.
Because last time my
wife
and I went to Nashville, they came in on Thursday night for a Monday game.
Oh, yeah. Pre-game for 3 days.
I'm telling you, I've never seen so many pairs of cargo jeans.
Oh, yeah.
So many feathered hairdos by the latest.
Yeah.
And so many 1999 Buffalo Bills era
Have you
shirts.
been to Buffalo?
Why?
Well, that's my point. Like, I've been to Buffalo. You got to have something that makes you excited if you live there. Otherwise, it's going to be real depressing.
So I've heard.
Yep, it's a hole. So that's what we got cooking there. It's just
training
a few
camps.
things we've been hearing about training camps.
Hobby hype, and then we wrap it up.
Hobby hype and wrap it up. Cool.
Gabby talks a lot.
Wow.
Susie talks a lot. Gary talks a lot.
Wow.
I'm going to mention some names. You wrote down a little list here of people you think are overhyped and underhyped.
And this is within the hobby right now, not necessarily in the NFL, just what's happening with their prices leading into the season.
I would say I don't disagree with your list.
Well, that's good to know. I like to think
So
that
you
I
might
have
be
a little
right,
bit of knowledge about
usually
this
when
business.
you and I have a knockdown drag out, I'm right.
Okay.
Do we need to go through it?
Well, you can try. I'm trying to think of situations where that's been the case. Other than your Game 6,
Game 6.
what else? What else you got?
There's-
Especially football related. There ain't going to be
there's
much.
something else. There's something else. There's something else. Wait for it. I'm thinking of it.
It definitely ain't Tua. The Miami media is already calling for Teddy Bridgewater.
I already told you what happened.
Okay.
The camp doesn't feel the same way.
Okay.
They outed Tua's wedding, which he tried to keep very private. Tua ripped on the media talking about how they don't give him any privacy, and they were like, fresh meat. This is literally what's happening.
Okay.
If you talk with anybody at camp, they feel pretty good.
Okay.
Usually there's some assistant coach that doesn't keep their mouth shut that's like, yeah, it's rough.
When everybody gets super excited that your quarterback threw a ball 50 yards in the air, which is what any competent high school football player should be able
See,
to
you're
do.
already padding the stats.
Okay.
You're already saying it.
What am I saying?
You're already paving the way for if you're wrong about Tua.
No, I'm not.
You said he can't throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field.
Consistently, he can't. That's my point. That's literally my point.
But you've been wrong so many times.
I haven't, though.
Yeah.
All right, go to hyped and
There was
overhyped,
another
underhyped.
one because I thought about it today, but I'll remember for next
Okay,
week.
remember, make a list. It ain't many.
Guys, this is the most negative
Especially football
podcast,
related.
the most negative sports card podcast on the web, The Ball Car Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports
You
Collective.
can't not say it.
No,
See?
you can't.
It brings us together. It's like an emotional hug for us, right? Up first, the only one I maybe disagree with in the whole list,
Okay.
Trey Lance is overhyped in the hobby right now.
Have you seen the prices on his stuff? He's gone up 30% in 10 days.
The Niners know what they're doing, bro.
I sold 2 red ice prisms from hangers for $120 a piece.
Man, those are pretty cards, though.
It's a dude who's taken 5 snaps, and he played not in Division One. But do I think Trey Lance has some real talent and could eventually develop into a pretty good player? Yes. Should his red ice and silver prisms be selling for 3 figures raw right now? Absolutely not. He's outselling, well, yeah, he is right now. He's outselling Mac Jones. He's outselling Trevor Lawrence, which I think is an insane thing. Trevor Lawrence is going to take massive steps this year.
I agree on T-Law.
Massive steps this year.
All right.
So, yeah, overhyped right now. I would not be buying Trey Lance stuff. Sell it.
I would agree on the hobby front.
Yes.
I think the excitement around him, with him being in camp, with the weapons that they have to work with, I don't think the program is hyping.
No.
him.
This is all hobby.
Yeah,
This is
I think
pricing
he
in the
is-
hobby right now.
I think he could could be
Sell.
that person by the end of the year.
He may, but he's not now.
But it's-
Sell.
But what if? So that's a good point. So in the hobby respect, if he fulfills, not a Super Bowl run, but you make a playoff run, you win a game. Okay.
Okay.
He's a competent quarterback. Is his raw card the week that they lose in the playoffs? So not before the playoffs, right
Okay.
after. Worth more in that time than it is now.
Well, here's all I'll tell you. His raw stuff in a product that's printed 60% more is selling for the same as Justin Herbert's raw stuff, and it is selling for more than Joe Burrow's raw stuff. So, to me, that's Crazyville.
All right. You mentioned him. Let's talk about him. A lot of people are talking about him. You still think, even after all the rumors that are coming up about New England, that Mac Jones is overhyped. Why?
Because his stuff is still stupid expensive. It's come down a little bit, but it's still stupid expensive. Again, I sold a green prism, a silver variation, and a regular silver Mac Jones for $300. The dude's gonna throw maybe 20 touchdowns this year.
Are
on
there
a team.
any good quarterbacks in the league right now other than Josh Allen?
Oh, there's a ton of great quarterbacks in the league. There's a ton of guys that you could go buy right now and probably make money on. Like, I think you should be buying Mitch Trubisky. I think Joe Burrow is undervalued right now, especially on his mid-range stuff. His high-end stuff is expensive. But his mid-tier stuff, like his Prism bases and raw silvers, optic raw stuff, I think Joe Burrow is undervalued right now. I already said.
All right, just wondering. Anyway, let's keep going with this.
Let me ask a question. Don't answer it. Go ahead.
No, you did. You were
Okay.
You just need. It was a yes or no.
Okay. Sorry.
It was not multiple choice,
It wasn't? Okay. Go ahead.
and definitely not multiple choice where you can pick more than one.
Okay. Fire away.
Thinking about it, wasn't all of the above either. You having a good time?
I am. Loads. Loads of fun. Loads and loads of fun. So that was overhyped.
All right, underhyped.
Underhyped.
Geno Smith.
Yeah. So, well, I'd say it's Geno Smith, Drew Lock. They're together.
Right.
Whoever wins the starting job in Seattle is worth buying because they're both dirt freaking cheap right now.
Buy both of them right now.
Yeah. I mean, you might as well. Dirt cheap.
Get something that's numbered.
Yep.
Get something short print. If you get it graded,
Yeah. Whichever one, and to be frank, you can probably get Geno Smith stuff a little cheaper than you can get Drew Lock stuff, and it's stuff that was drastically printed less of. He's in 2014.
I think I got a Lock to 25 canvas.
Yeah, I've got a few Lock.
Is that one of
cards.
25 canvas?
Yeah, there was one of 25. They also did of 100. But whoever wins that job is going to have some weapons. And is going to put up pretty decent numbers. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about stuff where you're not going to 10x your money, but if you can go buy a Drew Lock Prism Auto right now for $50.
No.
If he goes out and at the end of the first month of the season has 10 to 12 touchdown passes and an interception or two and a decent passer rating, and the Seahawks are 3-1, you'll be able to sell it for $150.
Yeah.
Same thing with Geno Smith stuff. So whoever wins that job is worth having some of their stuff to move. I'm not telling you to buy it for the long term, but they're not getting any love right now at all, and they should be.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Okay.
Next one I'm not sure about because we already talked about it a little bit, but you got Baker down here is underhyped in the hobby right now.
Stuff's cheap.
Yeah.
Dirt cheap.
Mm-hmm.
I saw at the last show I was at, I tried to make a trade, but the guy wouldn't trade with me. I saw RPAs numbered to 149 and less for $100.
Mm.
Rated rookies, just base Donruss rated rookies that 2 years ago were $15 to $20 are in people's dollar boxes.
Yeah.
$2 boxes. Buy them all.
Good weekend for card shows.
Yeah,
Look
buy
for
them
Baker.
all. Because, again, you pay $2 for them, you buy 10 of them. If they go up to $5, you just got 150%
And
return on
if
your
you want to
money.
be on the cheap and you're at a card show, just ask people, hey, do you throw any Bakers in the dollar boxes?
Yeah.
And be like, there's 50 of them? All right, because chances are they weren't in the dollar box. They just got moved to the dollar box in the last month.
Yeah. So,
ask. There's 50 cards. You want to be on the cheap? Offer them 25. See what happens.
And I mean, Baker, remember, it wasn't that long ago leading into last year.
I have his red, white, and blue. It
Where
was
Baker stuff was
$110.
through the roof.
$110.
Because there was a lot of high expectations for that team and for him. I'm telling you, he hasn't changed as a player, and he could go out and light it up again. And if he does, it's a very cheap play to make some money.
One last.
Yep.
Underhyped still, which just says something about how special this athlete is.
Yes.
DK.
He's in that fourth year doldrum as far as pricing goes. He's one of the, in my opinion, just pure skill set and talent. He's a top 5 or 6 receiver in the league as far as production goes. I think he's a top 10 receiver in the league and has the ability to be a top 4 or 5 guy. And it goes back to quarterback play, but he's going to be the main guy. And the thing about that offense is you can't commit safety help one way or the other because they've got too much going on out there. People forget Dwayne Eskridge is there as the number 3. You got Tyler Lockett, who's an amazing receiver too. DK Metcalf stuff is not crazy expensive. Now, he's not a guy.
He's not super cheap either.
Well, cheaper than you think.
Yeah.
Like, I had an
Not
opportunity.
cheap for the position.
I had an opportunity to buy a select RPA of 10 for $400.
Yeah.
That's
a big card.
dirt cheap.
That's a big card.
That's dirt cheap. So he's a guy that I think is a little bit still undervalued within the hobby. So, and now's a good time to grab his stuff. Buy short prints, buy numbered stuff. Don't go buy a bunch of base. No reason to. You can get the good stuff for pretty decent pricing.
As a reminder, this episode is brought to you by.
Bush Light?
Nope,
Or you
say it the right way.
Bush?
Bush what?
Bush Light?
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a hard time talking dumb. It's difficult for me.
No, it's not.
It really is.
No.
I feel like you did
all
the last
listen-
episode, though.
Hey.
I have to pee.
all the listeners. All the listeners. Hey, now.
They say Bush Light?
Well, no, they don't.
No,
but
they don't. They probably don't drink Bush
You're
Light.
talking like what for the first time?
I'm talking dumb?
It ain't the first time.
That's fair. 100% fair.
Yeah, that's all. That's all I wanted to say. This has been the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector,
Peace.
out!